Veterans Voices, sponsored by Empower Federal Credit Union.
This is a special presentation from ABC50, WWTI Watertown.
Good evening, I'm Ryan Dean. Welcome to Veterans Voices. It's a privilege to be your host for the next 30 minutes as we celebrate and highlight our patriotic heroes. Our goal is to use this powerful program to honor the honorable. And no one does that better than Honor Flight Syracuse. In its nearly 10-year history, it's flown more than 1,600 Central and Northern New York veterans to our nation's capital for a trip and an experience of a lifetime. Let's kick this program off by taking off with Mission 21.
From the moment Honor Flight Syracuse touches down in D.C., it touches deep.
When we come through the airports, the standing ovations that we got and the bands playing for us, it brought tears to my eyes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your service.
A greeting of gratitude that's decades in the making.
Sir, welcome to D.C.
When I came back, my second tour, we were told not to wear our uniforms. We never had a welcome home. Excuse me. And this is just great.
So, how you doing? Good.
It's a long day for this long overdue journey. Seven memorials and monuments. At each one, a memory made. And for some, a memory unlocked that's never been shared.
We've been married for 52 years, and I'm still just now learning about things that happened while he was in Vietnam that he just never talked about it.
These 82 veterans make the trip to find closure, share and heal old wounds with those that understand. They come here to seek solace in the silence and say goodbye to those who never made it back.
Are you kidding? Oh my God, me. Holy jumping. Wow.
It's the second stop of the day that stops most of these Vietnam veterans. The wall's reflection, purposely designed for connection to the more than 58,000 names on it. For some, it's a healing touch. For others, it's still too much.
I looked on the wall, I just couldn't. I just couldn't.
For Mike Brown of Oswego, it's the first panel that pains him the most.
We came over on ship from Port Hueneme, California. And to realize all those guys died afterwards, it's tough.
On this path, we meet Navy veteran Bill Downey of Pulaski. There's one name that's been etched on his mind for decades.
Can you tell me his name?
Richard Lubin.
He, along with 6 Marines, were killed when their helicopter went down.
I was supposed to be on that flight.
Bill says it would have been his name on this wall if it weren't for Richard asking to make a last-minute switch so he could get the flying hours he needed.
It's kind of survivor's guilt. It's always the what ifs, you know, like I'm married now, I have 2 kids. It's like, geez, if you'd have been in that chopper, none of this would have happened.
He figured the best way to honor Richard was by living a life of honor. He went on to have a successful career as a physician's assistant. When he wasn't caring for the sick, he was a caring husband and father.
And that's the way I looked at it. I thought he'd be proud of me.
His daughter Chelsea certainly is. She says her father needed this trip. While parts of his life are hard to talk about, she believes he's healing through sharing the painful past and what's likely going to be some tough days ahead. Bill was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
I imagine at some point I'll forget who Richard Lubin is with the Alzheimer's. Thank you very much.
But today he remembers. And this wall will make sure we will never forget.
Ross, R-O-S-S?
That's why Honor Flight exists, to show these veterans who went through hell in many ways that it's never too late to get it right. To offer them the hand they deserved from the start.
I don't know where you got them all.
To show them that sometimes the end is the best part. Honor Flight 21, welcome home.
They thought I was going to die, but I fooled them. I didn't die.
Coming up on Veterans Voices, the greatest generation. Meet a World War II veteran who's seen it all in his 101 years of life.
I have very blessed life, yes, very blessed.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. This year marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Sadly, with each passing decade, the number of World War II veterans dwindles. But fortunately, for all of us, we still have D-Day survivors right here in Central New York. We want to recognize some of those heroes. We start with Tony Graziano of Canastota. He's 102 years old. On D-Day, he jumped into Normandy with the 82nd Airborne Division. In Liverpool, it's 101-year-old Frank Bergmeyer. As an Army Air Corps navigator, he did 65 missions. His 39th was D-Day. He calls it the biggest moment of his life. In Manlius, Tony Percio is 103 years old. He was a weather officer forecasting for the bombing runs of the 8th Air Force, known as the Mighty 8th. And in Syracuse, it's James Sakalis. He's 102. The Army veteran was part of the third wave that landed on Normandy Beach. The demolition expert was tasked with clearing minefields. And then there are the men who played a critical role in Normandy in the days and months following D-Day. It's time now to meet Cal Scheckler, whose story has never been told on TV until Veterans Voices.
A cat may have 9 lives, but I guarantee you they don't compare to the one life of the man who lives inside this country home.
Hi, Mr. Scheckler, how are you?
World War II veteran Cal Scheckler is 101 years old. A recent fall has him parked for now, but he still has a driver's license and able to get around.
Oh, yes. I'm more active than most people.
And he's certainly seen more than most.
I just was driving along one day and saw this upside-down German tank with a gun sticking out, and I thought that would make a good picture. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I remember almost every minute of it, too.
He remembers his life almost being cut short When he was in his early 20s, he spent months in a hospital after getting sick during an Army training exercise.
They thought I was going to die, but I fooled them. I didn't die.
A sharp memory.
How many years have you lived here?
175.
The family's been out here for 175 years?
And a great sense of humor, even when recalling how he arrived on Omaha Beach in Normandy weeks after D-Day. He was carrying most of his possessions on his back, including college textbooks.
That bag weighed about 60 pounds. We had to climb about 80 feet and climb with all this extra weight on it. And that was stupid.
Maybe not his brightest moment, but Cal was known for his intelligence. He never saw combat. He was on the technical end. His schooling in electrical engineering made him the perfect man to work on a small team with the U.S. Army Signal Corps. Their job was to repair a telegraph cable that stretched across the Atlantic Ocean from New York to Germany. It had been cut at the start of the war. The repair was needed so leaders in Washington could send and receive messages to the troops fighting on the front lines in Normandy.
I knew that the problem was very difficult, and there was a distinct possibility that we could never solve the problem. They didn't realize how difficult it was to do that. Yeah. It was very, very, very difficult.
And he was testing not only cables, but underground lines.
Bill Burns understands. When he's not giving speeches on the Atlantic Cable, he runs a website on the history of it. He's even documented Cal's war story and the critical role he played in Normandy.
So Cal's job was to build an elaborate network of electrical components and test it constantly. And it's a very exacting job. It's quite an involved operation with a lot of technical work.
As a master sergeant, Cal says that technical, tedious work fell on his shoulders. After 28 days of working morning, noon, and night, he says his team was able to restore the crucial connection.
Did everything they asked me to do and then some.
After the service, Cal met the love of his life, Marjorie. They were married for nearly 75 years.
She was a very fantastic woman.
The couple raised 11 children in this Cato farmhouse. He had a very successful career as an engineer, working for GE, Carrier, and Xerox. Later, he would leave the corporate life to become a crop farmer. He says he never sought land. Land just always found him.
I enjoyed farming. I really enjoyed farming.
101 years, 11 children, 75 years of marriage. A very blessed life.
A very blessed life, yes. Very blessed. Have maybe 8 or 10 years yet to go.
Well, that's wonderful. I want to see you on your 110th birthday. I'll come visit you.
Okay.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. Our next story is about a North Country native who served in the Vietnam War as a teenager, serving his country during one of the most challenging times in our history. And today, he keeps that history alive for future generations. Here's Nick DeFarius.
The war in Vietnam. It was the first televised war, shown in pictures night after night in our living rooms. Claude Williams, a sergeant from the 1st Infantry Division, joins us to share his remarkable story of his time in Vietnam.
I arrived in Vietnam shortly after the Tet Offensive started in 1968. So I actually put feet on the ground in 1968. I was in the headquarters company, 1st of the 18th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division. Our base camp was out of Zion. Well, it was northeast of Saigon. I was a young man. I didn't discuss it a lot with my parents. I was 18 and I was able to make that decision myself. My father was a farmer up in Rodman. My mother was a registered nurse who worked here in the local hospitals. And we didn't discuss it very much. It was something that I just decided that was going to have to happen that way. They wanted me to go to college, and I didn't want to have to be the one that started college, got taken out with a draft, sent to Vietnam, and possibly killed over there, where my time and their money would have been for nothing. So it was my goal through this whole thing to be able to put my service to my country out there, get back as long as I could get back, and then fulfill what I wanted to do from there on, and that's start the college. When I left for Vietnam, my father was also a World War II vet, and he understood totally what was going on. And my goodbye was he simply shook my hand and said, "I'll probably never see you again."
Though his father would see him again, Claude, like over 2 million Americans, would come back forever changed by his experience in Vietnam.
My main purpose, my main duties were to run night surveillance for night defensive positions. If I was back in base camp, I'd be in a tower out on the perimeter, and we had what you call anti-personnel radar devices and starlight scopes. The starlight scopes are basically, as a hunter now, you can go out and buy a night scope that you can see it in the evenings and in the dark. Back then it was a top secret. So I had that and a radar scope that was basically a Doppler radar, and you had headphones on to listen for different patterns to be able to pick up individuals moving or any kind of movement that was not supposed to be there. At that point, I'd mark it and call in a fire mission and try to negate it. Combat's totally just chaos. I can't tell you what it's like to be in combat. You would not understand, even though I've been there, and I can't say understand it, but I have experienced it. I could not explain that to you.
Like so many who returned from combat in Vietnam, Claude's hardships didn't end once his service was over due to the mixed reception of veterans back home.
When we came home, it was a pretty rough time. If you had a uniform on, you were a target. Not to be shot or killed, but to be maligned verbally, to have things thrown at you, to abuse you. And I fully believe that some people here actually wouldn't give jobs to veterans if they knew that they'd served. And it was tough finding work coming out. It was tough going to school.
After the war, Claude graduated from St. Lawrence University and put his years in the service to use with a career in law enforcement. He raised a family, and today he recognizes that his story is one of millions who shared in a unique moment in history that can never be forgotten.
I'm one of 2.7 million people that put boots on the ground in Vietnam. The only thing that makes me unique is it was my experience. Everything that happened, good or bad, and anything that I have in scrapbooks, photos, or memories, those are all just mine. And those 2.7 million, they all have theirs.
Dick, thank you for your service. You performed a proud and honorable duty.
Up next, we end where we began. We're taking back off with Honor Flight for what many vets call the best part of the trip. When Veterans Voices returns.
Before we land tonight's program, we're taking back off with Honor Flight Syracuse. This trip provides so many memorable moments for our veterans. But there's one that's worth writing about.
Honor Flight Syracuse is first-class service for those who serve. The Army of Volunteers makes sure not a single detail is overlooked. It's a day full of celebration with a few surprises.
How's your day?
One of those happens 30,000 feet in the air. That leaves these vets floating on Cloud 9.
It's mail call for Honor Flight Mission 21.
Oh, look at that. It's like Christmas.
Dick, thank you for your service. You performed a proud and honorable duty, and our country is better because of you and all people, past and present, who serve.
Jim, I'm very thankful and inspired by your service in Vietnam. Very good.
This is great. This is such a, I never expected any of this.
Kelly Hoyt. Kelly Hoyt.
28 Edward, that's you. There you go. Thank you for your service, sir.
We just wanted you to know we love you and hope you are having a great time on this trip. Love always. Amanda and Justin. Oh, well, I never got so much mail in my life. I can't believe it.
Letters from a spouse get a special seal.
Sealed with a kiss.
Oh. I hope your journey to Washington, D.C. helps bring healing to your heart and to your mind.
Dear great grandpa, I love you, Sammy.
Weighted words from sons, daughters, and others they hold close.
Thank you for your service. God bless America. Go Navy. That's me.
It's a card from Cazenovia that has Eric Morrow taking a moment.
Dear Uncle Eric, your service has made a profound impact on the lives of so many, and I am proud to say my uncle defended our country in the Vietnam War. Because of you and men like you, a world where my daughters can grow and be free is possible. I will be proud to tell them that their great Uncle Eric made the country they live in what it is today.
It just makes me feel glad all over. All over again.
See, Robert, you'll call.
Helping deliver that joy is Acacia Phillips.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. I hope you had a wonderful day.
We did.
Thank you. You did. And your mail?
Well done.
My students made some of your cards. I hope you enjoy them.
God bless you and thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, God bless you.
Back on the ground and well before takeoff,
The list, the names of the veterans, they're
Phillips and her students at Weedsport Junior Senior High School wrote hundreds of cards to the veterans they never met.
Mr. Hoyt Kelly, thank you for your service. Army strong, go Army, beat the Navy. Thank you, Riley G.
just continue doing your best. You're also creative. And
It's a tradition that started years ago for this patriotic school.
Thank you for your service and all that you've done for our country and putting your life on the line in the U.S. Marines.
This is great. I like the ones from the little kids. Stephen, thank you for your service and sacrifices so that we can live free. I don't know what to say.
Honor Flight Mail Call proves sometimes the most profound words don't need to be spoken.
And that's our program tonight. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our veterans. As we like to say around here, we hope the stories leave you feeling heard, seen, and honored.
Veterans Voices, sponsored by Empower Federal Credit Union.